you?
I'm great. How are you?
Sorry to everyone beforehand. I have kind of a voice from a polycon, but
No, you're fine. So, how was it? It looked so fun.
thing. It was absolutely incredible, an absolute whirlwind. I had a great time. I met so many wonderful people. It's such a brilliant vibe. The readers there are just so vibrant and just wonderful. So yeah, I'm very at my table.
I was watching people's stories and looking at photos, and I was so jealous the whole time, but I'm so glad that everyone had such a great time. Well, thanks for joining me. We're just going to jump right in because you've been so busy, and I don't want to take all of your extra time. Um, but tonight we're talking about When the Moon Hashed. Before we get to that, I just wanted to get a little rundown of how you got here, where you started your writing journey, and just kind of get us updated.
So I obviously initially I've been indie published. So I didn't even subscribe to the traditionally published route to begin with. I just wrote my stories, and I realized doing some research online, I realized that that there was this whole world of indie publishing, and that to me felt and sort of easy to for me to accomplish. So I went about things that way. I liked the fact that I had a role and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so with my Bloom series, obviously that's all still indie published. And then when it came around to I was actually like Polycon last year. I just released the third book of my Crystal Bloom series, and I decided I needed a bit of a breath from that story, and just because it's quite intense to write, and it just takes a lot. It takes a lot out of me, and so I needed to step into the that had been brewing for the past 3 years, and yeah, I didn't really know I was writing it, and until it was pretty much ready. And once I did, I was flooded with sympathy from all my readers and encouragement and whatnot, which was fantastic. And I obviously ran quite a big campaign with it. And as soon as it was published, it was immediately my agent got in touch with me, and she said, "Look, Sarah, we need to talk about, we need to talk, basically." And yeah, obviously by publishing houses, an absolute well. I feel like it's perfect for because it means that the book's actually a lot more people's hands will be once it's in bookstores and whatnot. So it's been a wild ride, wild, but like a fantastic couple of months. I feel like I've really found a great home for the story. So I'm extremely by the support that I have from both my new publishing houses.
Well, I definitely want to talk about that kind of transition from indie to traditional. But before we get there, I do want to talk about the story because it's incredible. Before you got on, I was saying how I think this is like the quickest I've read a book this long ever. Like I just couldn't put it down. So why don't you start by giving us a spoiler-free-ish summary?
Do that. I can do that. So the story, I'll start off by telling you all about the moons. So in the story, there's they each live in a different part of the world, and in the sky they saw the sky, they curl up and they moons, they solidify and become moons. And but in this world, these moons are full. So the story is Brave. She's a female assassin who was on a revenge to avenge the death of a fallen friend. And with this, she ends up incarcerated and in a prison cell, still bloodlusting for the person who took this her friend from her. We also who is he's a great love, and through that he is hunting down all the shards of her full moon plume, and basically he finds it on his journey to find these shards. He finds this uh, and throughout the story, which basically revolves around Rave's revenge arc, we discover why King Khan can't stay can't say goodbye to Ray, and he can't, let her go. And yeah, and we also discover why. Like I forgot to mention at the start is why Rave. Discover more about Rave's past, which.
You did a much better job than I did. I feel like if I tried to summarize this, it would take me like 20 minutes and I would be going back and just being like, oh, I forgot this part.
There's been times where I've just bamboozled for like honestly half an hour trying to explain the story. That is the most contained I can get it down to. I feel like I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff, but that is in a tight little nutshell.
No, you've done an excellent job. So, where did you get the inspiration for this series? I mean, the moons, I love that element so much, and like the moon plumes, like I love it. So, where do you get this inspiration?
What first came to me was the world. I saw, the sun at the top. I saw this world, not at the top always cast in sun and the bottom always cast in shade. I saw these different dragons and I saw those moons in the sky. So it was the most primitive sort of, the seed of the story for me. And I sat in that world for the past 3 years. I walked those streets and I experienced this world in my own head for, a long time before I actually started to put pen to paper. Uh, I knew that this world it needed to be, I guess, honoured with a story that was going to be able to explore it and be able to like, and I had to wait a little while for that story to come to me. But once it did, and I actually started it, a couple of times and I scrapped both options because they weren't speaking to me beyond sort of 30,000. And then I did a roadblock and then so I side. But then after I got back from a Polycon, it started screaming at me, and I was like, "Well, okay, here we go, here we go." And I can't even explain it. It's like suddenly it just struck me, and I was going like I've never written a book so fast. It took me, I think, 6 weeks to write the first draft. It took me another 6 weeks to go back through and flesh that first draft, second draft, and then we started the editing process, which obviously took another couple of months, but it flew out of me. It just so beautifully once it was ready to. But yeah, I, like my ear and whispered the story to me. It was wild. It was wild, and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop it. Yeah,
You better not make it sound so easy because we're going to expect the next one like tomorrow.
believe me. I'm already 50,000 words into the second one, so it's flying out.
That's amazing. Well, we kind of hit on this already in the summary. You discussed Rave and how, she's kind of big on revenge. It's like her thing. But I think too, like love is a motivator for her. Would you agree, even if she doesn't admit it to herself?
There is, I mean, she's got a past that she's of, and it's still deeply embedded in her. So I think that past is speaking to her, even though she doesn't really know it. And so yes, it is absolutely a motivator, but she's very, I guess, her mindset at the moment is very on one track, and she's ignoring all these other sort of pulls at her. But I would agree with you in that regard. Yeah.
What was it like to write? And I know you've written other things, but for her specifically, what was it like to write such a complex character? Because she does have that past that she's kind of dancing around and all of the different layers of her.
I find she's of all my stories, I find her the easiest to write. Um, Deals with her trauma and just her past and how I deal with mine. So very, she kind of just the charges, charges, and that's very much the way I roll as well. So I think her challenges, that is cracking, open the shell of those emotions and bringing them up. Um, so I find her just very, I yeah, she's yeah, no, she's absolutely, I yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that.
Well, on the other hand, we have Khan, who you already discussed. He lost the great love of his life, and so thinking through, like, I think it would have been easy to kind of give up after that and just feel, what is the point if not that? So, how do you think over the years up to the point of him getting to this storyline, like what kept him going? What motivated him to just kind of move on, move forward?
The same story where, yeah, and haven't read the story, perhaps just block your ears for a little bit. But where they're in a room, and I'm going to try and uncomfortable, but she hurts on her back, and she has been mended, and he says something to her along the lines of, revenge is the loneliest deity of them all. So he has, I think, the reason for me why he's so understanding of it, and the way so, I guess, gentle with her, and compassionate with understanding of who she is and what she's working towards in this particular book, is been through a time where he's lost somebody, and who he still loves great, and he has, I guess, tended to that wound with revenge and blood. And obviously in more recent times, by after all that happened, he's now that wound in other ways by hunting down crowds. And I think that he's very he's been there. He knows exactly what she's going through, those rises and those falls. But I think that's one of the beautiful things about art. Despite everything that he's been through, it's still so big and warm, and very endearing to write. Very, actually, because when I actually sat down and put pen to paper with him, he as he came out, he wasn't initially as I had, I guess, envisioned him. Um, but once I got into, there's a particular scene in where he finds, once I got to that scene, he just like took, and it was wild. He just told me how he needed to be, and I was like, you go there, you off you go, you got it, you've got it in hand. Um, yeah, yeah.
I always love hearing about how characters kind of write their own story. When I talk to authors, it's easy to think like, it's your story, you just tell it. But no, I'm often hearing how, no, they tell me what their story is. And I think that's so incredible.
It's wild too, because you can go on with strong like mindset of where you're going with these different characters, but those brains can actually be literally ripped right out of your hand. And I think I love leaning into that and just seeing like, okay, let's go then.
Well, I love them both so much. I think that, yeah, just both aspects of, I would hesitate to call him a cinnamon roll, but he's kind of like cinnamon roll adjacent, I think. Um, and then she's just incredible. And I love that we get multiple points of view, and it's not just the two of them. I don't want to go into too much detail, but there are several points of view. So, what made you choose to do so many, and how did you kind of navigate giving them different unique voices?
Um, so the story sort of screamed for me to be giving multiple view, because especially with there's a particular sister that we follow as well, and without her point of view in the story, I wouldn't have been able to, I guess, move the story along and with the speed that I need to be able to wrap it up in the 3 books that I'm intending to. It wouldn't we would have been, I guess, narrowed into just and because the world, I'm trying to show so many different parts of this world so that we've got that, and this story it isn't doesn't just revolve around two main characters. There is a whole raft of characters that that in the past and will, yeah. So that decision came very, very naturally to me. It just I needed those different character point of views, because they've got each of the characters that I speak from, a big role to play in the story moving forward. So I never sort of go in there just to kind of mix it up. There's always a reason, there's always I'm always leading somewhere with it. So and I love multi-point of views, because I feel when there's you, we can just get sort of narrowed into seeing the world only through our eyes, whereas that can sometimes be quite reliable when there is an affliction that they're working through or whatever. And I find it so interesting seeing those same situations through these different characters' eyes, and actually it's not always what. So I really like playing with, what's the word, exploring.
I agree. I was so fascinated with the pace of it because it is a thick book, but so much happens so quickly. And I thought you did a great job with those points of view because, like you said, if we only had two, there's no way we would get as much done. And so I found it to be fascinating and I absolutely loved it. But then it got me thinking, I mean, this is just book one. It's a big world. How in the world do you go about introducing readers to this whole new story, whole new system, world, giving all of the information needed, but also keeping it entertaining?
Yeah, I mean it's a, because it's the way series. I think it was easier in my pre, because I had a very unreliable narrator. She was really contained in her small bubble of space. So yeah, as pieces of information that we're absorbing. So it doesn't come across as like super world building, like info dump. But with this one, obviously, like Rave, she's got a somewhat understanding of the world, and there's a reason why I did the prologue. I wanted readers to feel like they already understood the way the world works, like they already understand, and that took them on their own sort of journey. I wanted the readers to, I wasn't just into this world and being like, here you go, work it out. But I glossary as well, which I found important for anybody who might struggle, because I didn't want to hold readers' hand through it. I didn't want to. I know that the first part of it, story, it's a big world. It's a big new world with whole new now. But I could have, there is here back and try not to make it so explainy. The way I kind of do is I try to bring the readers on this journey with so we're open to different facets as we go, and little, so that we're not stuffing it down the throat, I guess. But it is a challenge. I think for a lot of the challenge with the first book in a series, to bring them into this new world without stuffing it down their throats,
Well, I see a lot of people saying that they absolutely love the prologue, and I thought it was beautiful as well. And I think the glossary and even the pronunciation guide, like those were so helpful in making it feel like I can do this. I can get all the information that I need. It was super helpful. So I don't envy you. I'm sure it was I mean, you said you wrote it quickly, but I'm sure you still had to navigate a lot of that stuff. Um, well, I want to ask a couple more questions about the book before we jump into talking about kind of your process as a writer. But if readers could only take away one thing from this book specifically, what would you want that to be?
I think Rave herself feels a servant of love, and I myself feel that way. I know that I can be quite minded with, especially I get honed into my work, and give myself to the real world. But I feel like the story, I'm sort of trying, those of us who we don't really have to give. There's always, there's always for us, and there's always we feel like we're undeserving. So that, but also I want readers to feel like I have taken them for a ride on the back of a dragon. I want readers to feel like we walk these streets. So, I want readers to feel as if some sort of magic between those pages. I really felt it, and like this story has. I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to try not to. I think it just meant so much to me, and yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It really has been kind of an ode to my childhood. Um, I was like, I used to kneel at my nana's coffee table and read her fairy books, and she had a little hatching dragon egg, and I hold that in my hands, and and it was just so special in a lot of ways that it's just a symbol of like my childhood and of what exactly makes me me. The reason it came out of me so easily, and I hope it is, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that. That was really special. I feel like we haven't talked enough about the dragons, which I don't know like how to start that discussion without just going down a whole tangent, but I thought that was one of the most magical elements, and the beauty of the relationship between like the I don't what would you even call it? I don't want to call it like I guess the dragon riders and their dragons. Um, but yeah, I love that so much. And I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about the dragons? I don't know what to say about them other than they are amazing.
There'll be a lot more dragons in book two. So, so that's exciting. I guess I will explain the dragons a little bit better. There's three different sorts of dragons in this world. Some live in the hot part of the world where it's all sunny. They are very boisterous. They're very spiky-scaled, and they're like stocky. They they because so down to the shape. Their blood cold. They will die. They're in the middle of the world, which is Fade. There is, and they are feathered. They're colourful. They're just the same colours as the sky in the world, and they're they've got beaks, and they're not as, I guess. At the top, we've got at the middle where the wall is. We've got the Fade, and down the Fade where it's perpetually dark. And at the top, just under the sun, the Gondra, which is Sabersath spawning grounds. Then we've got Boggith over the other side there, which is more spawn. And then we've got right down the very bottom, we've got spawn. And so they're luminous, and they are leathery, and got floaty tails, and very hard to kill it. So yeah, I guess that they curl up into the sky. Yeah. Sorry, and the moon plumes can't go to the side because it's too hot for them. So.
Oh, well, I can't wait to get more dragons in book two. And that was going to be kind of my final question about the book, which is kind of about book two. And that is, what can we expect from book two without getting too spoilery?
So, yeah, definitely more dragons. And basically the plot shoves forward fast with book two. Book one was really kind of a kickboard. So we now understand we've scope of, I guess, her background, and we know we know a lot of things that. So in this next book, I guess that the epilogue, that provides a good seed of knowledge for, I guess, what we're moving towards, I guess, exploring in the next book, if that makes sense. I'm being very, I don't want to ruin things, but yeah, the next book is so buckle up.
Yeah, I'm so excited that I meant to tell you that it's cliffhangery, but it's the kind that makes me really excited and not like, oh, I hate you for doing that to me. So thank you for that because
Hoping, because I in my past I have written really, really, really hard cliffhangers, but with this story, I want each book really is going to round out a certain, and there is, like, obviously a touch of, oh, what's coming, of what is coming next, but I don't want to leave really like hanging off that cliff feeling like they're, that they're just bleeding out, sort of thing. So yeah, can be expected with the next book as well. That, it will be a little cliffhanger, but it's not the feels makes you feel like, yeah, you know, yeah.
well, we all appreciate that. um, So we've kind of touched on your writing process for this book and, going from indie to traditional. What I also want to know, like, what is it like writing in the social media era? And does it influence you at all, or are you able to kind of tune it out? How does that all work?
Very much. So I don't spend a lot of time on social media. Once I always make sure to go in and look at my stories and try and try and go through my take photos by the time. But I try not to go. That I think that goes for a lot of authors is, it's I feel like social media and readers groups and all that sort of stuff. It's very much becoming, it's a reader. It's not really there for us. At least we've got something that's been shared with us. It can be quite scary for an author going onto social media and just across, and to protect my same, I think we really do kind of create a bit of a wall around ourselves, so that, because when you do see any sort of negativity, it does hurt your creativity, and I'm very protective of creativity. I just keep it positive. I go on to my readers that have reached out. And my little writing cave, and I keep working. I'm cozy home, and I know that the people who interact with me, like, they're all positive, happy, wonderful readers. I'm feel so yeah. I guess my way of about it is just to create my own little happy corner.
It sounds really healthy. And I was actually going to ask about your creative process in general and kind of how you navigate that with things like this. So like press, but also taking the time to write and spending time with, the people in your personal life. How are you able, or what have you done to kind of, I don't know if perfect is the right word, but, make it doable?
So I think I was at really about a year ago when my husband, he left work to help me out at home, and because I was the primary caregiver of our three kids as well. So I was really struggling to juggle all that. And I guess to compensate was 6 hours, 17 days, sleeping on the couch, having mini naps, and then just cracking my computer open again, keep going, just and it was really, really unhealthy. And I constantly was behind on everything. But since he's home, I've created myself a bit of a system, and I have goals that I have each month. I'm free to spend time with my family, to answer my emails, and to make sure I'm not getting behind, being organized, and that I'm feeling like I'm achieving each time I get that tick at place. So I never really feel like I'm behind. I know that I've still got lots to do, but it doesn't feel like I'm climbing the mountain in little incremental steps. So that's a really healthy situation for me. And that's when I first implemented this new situation. Been fantastic. So yeah, I guess now I used to be, I guess, unorganized chaos. You know, unorganized chaos. That I was actually probably suffering, but now I am actually thriving in the org. non-chaos.
I'm so glad to hear that. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I did want to kind of give you an opportunity to maybe share some of your advice with writers and aspiring authors who maybe are looking to break into traditional publishing, or they don't know where to start with indie, or just kind of anything that you feel like is helpful. I know you can't do it all, but maybe one or two things that you find to be vital and helpful.
Something that I sort of with my writing has always been trying to learn. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to evolve that I've had from my beta and my alpha readers. I'm constantly reading as well, trying to to grow from writers that have been doing this way. And I feel like it's easy to fall into the trap of once you write something, that first draft down of being like, no, that is the story, that's the story. But there it's like being with going, no, that's not working. Like if I look at this from a different angle, it might be better. And so constructive criticism is, for me, it's like gold. It really is. I'm such a sponge with it, and the answer might not be the answer that is me else, but when somebody, there is always an answer, and sometimes you've got to work for a little bigger. That being open to that change is so important as a new author and as an author in general. So there would be that. There would also invest in a good editor, an artist, invest in art from in our community. From that the out there drawing these work. Plus, it also gives people, and I feel like that is wonderful energy in that. And yeah, I would say just write from the write what you think other people want to read. Write write a story that you enjoy, and then that will come out. That's when you're writing something that you love and you want it, and that you would.
I love that. That's all so helpful. And yeah, I mean, even if you're not a writer, I think those things, you can take things out of there that are helpful for you. So thank you for sharing that. Well, thank you for joining me. And everyone, if you have not read When the Moon Hatched yet, you need to go ahead and order it right now. We love it. And I'm so excited for this book. Like I said, I flew through it and now I'm telling everybody about it. And I can't wait for book 2. And thank you so much for taking time to speak with me.
And thank you for coming along, everybody, as well.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.